This is episode number 21 of I Have a Podcast live with Preston Konrad.
Billboard to influencer activation,
like paper
to
New York.
Shop.
There's
totally. We try our hardest,
and streets and building takeovers.
We try our hardest. Well, all that depends on how much money the client has to spend running media out of home. But we make beautiful assets for companies, and hopefully that propels them onto big things. A lot of our brands we've worked with have sold after working with us, or major brand awareness lifts of upwards of like 15%. So we have fun. We're like a crazy creative shop.
That's all. And you have a pretty tight team too.
We're lean and mean. And I think that's I actually market it that way to clients. Like when we do a pitch, I'm like, hey, we have 0 office in Hong Kong and we have 0 office in London, but we're lean, we're mean, we're better, we're leaner, and we're cheaper. And I've worked in every bucket, from luxury apparel to big box brands to $4 billion jeans brands, right? So it's really nice to tap into all of my previous experience and service clients in a new way in a category I haven't worked with in a while, like a protein bar. Well, how do you tell the story of a protein bar? It's like, okay, let's look back at all the experience from me working for the big guns, right? And let's make the protein bar cool in our own way. So it's like a blessing. It's amazing. There's just a handful of us, but we bring on people as needed for projects.
I love that. Well, if our listeners recognized the voice, perhaps it's because they were shopping in a mall or a shopping center, or they certainly would have recognized your face from the many screens that were plastered in American Eagle coast to coast, and revolutionized that brand I watched. And we met actually right before you worked at Ralph Lauren,
yeah. We
at MTV, which you reminded me about in my podcast. I think that was my aha moment when you told me that we had met through a casting from, I think, MTVU, was it?
It was MTVU. Remember, I did that like door makeover show, and you were running it. I mean, you were running everything. So
talent was running.
Everybody had to come in
the door opener
through your office at some point through that door. But yes, that's where we originally met. And then I believe a friend of mine interned for you, as well, like at 1515.
Yes. I can be protective about my energy, and in castings, it's definitely a collaborative effort, and I try to always keep it there, just because it kind of helped me. With my empathetic approach to sort of casting. So it's hard for me to make friends with people in casting rooms sometimes, because I'm on defense and I'm thinking, and also I'm on alert, because I'm like, this person's only showing me the best side of them. So I have to figure out what the bad side is before I give them to my producer. And
I like that.
I can't even think of anything other than inspiration when I think of words to describe you. Like, it's just every move you make is, I'm saying, yeah, that's right.
I mean,
as you're making them,
I'm out here just. I think there's just something like, I was talking to my agent the other day about this, actually. And first of all, it's the nicest thing of you to say. Thank you. And I'm really just, I don't know where it comes from. I just am a hustler. And I think we were talking about this like never ending sense of curiosity. And I think that's what it is with me. That's like, what could I do with this? Or what can we do here? What brand can I launch? Or how can I redo it? It just never, and sometimes I wish it would stop, especially when I'm trying to watch Drag Race at like 10 p.m. and just zone out on like a little bit of CBD just to relax at the end of the day. And it's like, it won't go away, right? And it's a blessing and a curse, but I use it to my advantage to, be the Lisa Rinna of the West Side of Manhattan, because honey, she won't stop. But I just like to keep moving.
You talk about being the exhaustion piece, though, and it really is, I think, being creative. I've learned the hard way that I have to. I'm not necessarily one to get. I would rather get burned out than give bad product. I don't burn out easily, though, so I have to be mindful not to put out bad product and control it. Being able to understand my day or the projects I'm working on, understanding my energy is such, and managing that has been sort of like something that I feel has helped me really hone in and control that piece that feels like a firefighter hose. That's like,
it's wild. I mean, and I was just talking to my team about this last night. I mean, we're so blessed to have so many projects that have just landed and that are about to take off. And a lot of it, at the end of the day, the inception of the creative comes from my jungle gym of a brain. So that's all pinging back and forth in there a million miles an hour. I can't go to my team and say, come up with the most imaginative idea at 3 a.m. and write it on a napkin like I do, because that's my gig, right? As the founder of this business, and they just support me. So it's for me to try to avoid burnout, which I'm like you, I don't get burnout easily, but I'm terrified of, more than anything, of putting something forward that I'm not proud of. So it's an interesting balance for sure.
I noticed though, or maybe this is my observation, is you put effort into beginning your day and coined the phrase morning people. And it doesn't matter where it ends because it's a cycle. And I feel like it matters where it begins. And for me, that's what morning people sort of symbolizes, is just a fresh start. Nothing to do with an ending, but a fresh start.
I never thought about it that way. It's so funny. And I never thought about it as anything, to be honest with you. I remember like when I was a kid, my grandpa used to be a morning guy. He'd get up and go to Dunkin' Donuts and bring back coffees at 6 a.m. And my mom was always up early. And there's just something, and I've always been kind of an early bird. And then I realized, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago or something, I'm like, this is the time. This is the time when it's dark out and everyone else is asleep. And I'm getting my hustle started now. I'm starting my intention for the day now. What are we going to tackle today now? And then I started talking about on Instagram, and people would write me, Vinnie, they'd be like, you didn't say good morning this morning. Like, what's going on? I'm like, really? And I'm like, let me just lean into this. And it just became this thing. And it really is. People talk all the time about, start your day with a positive intention and blah, blah, blah. It's really the end all be all of my days, is how I wake up, how I start the day, workout or not, good outfit or not, feeling good about myself or not. It's a mental thing.
And does that help? Does that help be in this content game that you're in? Does it help with the stamina?
My mornings are like a highly vibration driven, fueled, crazy time. Like my business partner is out west, so and she's got 2 kids on Zoom school. So I'm in my own world until, I don't know, 11 in the morning, which is amazing because I can just fire off ideas, work on content for my personal channel, work on content for my home brand, service my clients in London for Kennett. And it's just my like time. And then I do crash hard around. I mean, I crash hard, but then it's that creative thing. Like at 10 p.m., that little bug comes into your head with some idea and you're like, shit, why is this happening now? I just want to relax. But you can't control it, you know?
Preston.
That's how it is. It's like tap, 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 tap. I'm just trying to watch $1 Million Listing. Leave me alone.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be, I'm
right.
just trying to figure out what Bridgerton is about.
Exactly.
Stop.
Totally.
How do you, with that time, so 2 questions. With that time, how do you pick and choose when to create content versus business opportunities? And like it's not just, you're not just getting paid from content, it's not partnerships, you've elevated and are expanding. How do you juggle that, prioritize that?
Yeah, my mornings, specifically speaking to mornings, is when I'm feeling the most creative. So I typically think big picture in the mornings because I feel more raw and like open in the morning. So if we're running a massive out-of-home ad campaign for a client, I typically do the inspiration boards and the concepting and taglines, all of that first thing in the morning while I'm like pure, if that makes sense. And then throughout the day, we get into the weeds. What is on deck? Who needs to be serviced? Does my personal Instagram have X amount of sponsorship content that needs to be shot this week? I really start to function, I guess, from like a checklist throughout the middle of the day. But it's the early mornings and the late nights that I'm big picture. And then I trickle that down to the middle of the day where I'm really frantic and just like checklisting everything.
Yeah. Do you shoot on your iPhone?
Everything.
And then natively, and then is that what it is? Or do you shoot?
I shoot everything on my iPhone. Except, if there's some massive initiative that I really want to impress the client, or, this is on my personal account as like a sponsored content game, but I would shoot on a Sony A7 and use like a playback monitor and use a lav mic and really go ham on it. Cause I'm like you, I like to geek out on equipment stuff once in a while. But
I think that geeking out in technology gives you an opportunity to impress the audience with your talent in a way that doesn't involve your actual talent. It just amplifies it. I completely agree with you about new technology, and it's such a big part of that first impression.
You're also I get a lot of inspiration from you on that, because separate from the hardware, you're also a big proponent of emerging platforms, which, you know me, my general mentality is like, don't put another egg in my basket. There's too many things to juggle. But then
you're walking through the mall and you're like, when did they change that store? Come on.
Exactly. Right. But then here comes one of my witching hour moments during quarantine. And I'm like, I finally download TikTok and I'm like, shit, I'm obsessed.
Yes.
I'm obsessed.
The best investment I made this pandemic, for sure. His pandemic purchases were art. I went candles.
Well, it's funny. You apparently are not. You're not the only person, and it's funny because I started developing Preston Konrad Home like 2 years ago, and I knew it was going to be candles from the jump, because for a specific reason, and I'll tell you. But when we finally got to launch, I'm like, being inundated with articles, Women's Wear Daily, candle market up 400% due to lockdown measures. I'm like, oh my God. Because of course I'm going through panic. Why am I launching when all these small businesses are closing and I'm launching a small business? Who am I? I'm insane. And it really ended up being somewhat of a blessing, because it is something that was able to provide a lot of comfort and calm and a little hint of style for a lot of people while they've been locked in their house.
Well, I can only imagine this is the iceberg. So I'm excited for what's to come in the future. I can just tell you that. Regardless of what it is, I know that certain people in my life who are our friends will definitely be, did you see what Preston did? Isn't that amazing? Aww. It's sort of a cyclical conversation we have about you. I love that.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, we do have a lot on deck for the home brand for 2021, new scents, new categories, potential big retail initiatives. So there's like many balls bouncing through the snow right now that are very exciting.
We talked about, I mean, all of these things. Do you batch create? Do you create in the flow? What's your philosophy on it?
For content or for
your content? For your content, for Preston Konrad Home and for Preston Konrad.
It's funny. I was interviewing a girl the other day to just help me out on social, just kind of make sure things are consistent. And then I'm following I've never had a calendar in my life for social media.
Yeah.
Never. I've never had a content calendar. I've never had a planned out schedule. I've never had a posting cadence. And now more than ever, I post really on the fly. Really on the fly.
Hold on 1 second.
Yep.
Wait, we just lost you, but you said I never had a content calendar.
Oh yeah. I never had a content calendar. I've never had a Planoly. I do for the brand. For Preston Konrad Home, I do. For Preston Konrad, it's never planned out. It used to be, let's say 3 years ago, when Instagram was really just about static, beautiful images of people that were aspirational, I would have it planned a couple days in advance. But right now it's like, if I'm not feeling it, I don't post. If I want to show a beautiful snowy afternoon and I know it won't get likes and engagement, I'm still posting it because it makes me happy. Like, I think I'm getting back to the roots of that a little bit. So the posting cadence and the content.
That's the purpose, right? Like, if people see that you're happy, I think that's the purpose that your content serves, is not to show how you're living your lifestyle, but how to live a happy lifestyle. And this just happens to be yours.
Right. I mean, and it's like, also, I mean, I can't tell you the amount of photos I posted probably 2 years ago where I looked amazing, but I was the least happy. Right. And it's like, you're posting some beautiful $2,000 suit looking like $1 million. And I'm like, fuck this. And now I'm like running out in the snow and in a puffer coat, literally just on video with no filters and putting it on as a static post on my feed. I would never have done that 3 years ago. But it's just about, I'm trying to figure out what this app means to me right now and what it means. I think a lot of people are in the same boat because
Well, you launched, I don't know if this is true, but unfortunately, because of screens, I feel like you launched your brand on Instagram, you know, sort of like how people might identify as like, oh, so-and-so is an MTV talent because they happened to get their start, you know, at the network or on a platform at that time. But the brand, as we've seen, if it's creative, is owned by the platform and stays on the platform. And I can give you a list of TV shows with celebrities that MTV owns that they do not, that if they were to have pitched that show today in 2021, it would be a different story.
Totally. I mean, well, that's interesting. I mean, well, that's the funny part, right? Because at the end of the day, I've built a house on land that I don't own, you know? So that's weird. Yeah. And so have you and me and everyone, my personal brand, we built these houses on land that we have no rights to. They could say, hey, you can no longer, you have to now pay. This is kind of what's going on with like boosting posts, right? I get this message, reach more people with this button. Well, I used to reach them for free, but they're essentially saying, if you want to use electric in the house that you build on our land, you got to pay something else. It's like, but I've always had electric. And they're like, well, no, now you can't. Like, if you want to use the water, you need to pay. But you're like, but I built the house. You're like, but
it's like, surprise, it's the fire festival. And correct. You're like, wait, what? How did I?
Totally. But yes, it's essentially Preston Konrad Home is an Instagram native brand. We've spent $0 on ads, $0 on marketing. And we've used organic reach to reach everybody.
Does it translate to Pinterest as well from what happens in Instagram?
It's really funny. Pinterest is like this untapped frontier for me. I'm on it 9 hours a day for client-facing inspiration, you know, for Kennett Creative, but I don't use it as an individual to put out content. And I actually think it's a major, major miss on my part. Especially for shopping and click-throughs and retention and data. Like
well, you have so much. It's not like it's going to cost you anything to shoot more photos. You already have.
And I could just repurpose all the content I have, which is why the
those
girl,
poor little babies, they're like, pick me, choose me.
Which is why. So where's
my shine?
Yeah. So like, you know, that's why I was meeting with this gal the other night who was amazing. It's just like, there's more stuff I could be doing. I don't have enough hours in the day. I'm putting out the content. It feels real. I don't need you to do that at all. I need you to help me cast a wider net and make sure I'm touching everything in the right way.
And you talked about getting a calendar. Was that something that you're getting a calendar? Is that part of a plan that you're strategy into, or is it part of your strategy out of something?
So I use a pretty detailed calendar for my business, for my agency. For social media, I've always felt like because I'm the editor-in-chief of my own little magazine and I know what I'm doing, I've never felt the need to. And I feel like people that are maybe less creative or maybe really get in their head about content or really worried about what the feed looks like, I could see a visual post calendar being a really important resource for them. I'm always kind of like, well, that looks like shit next to that. I'm not posting that. Or, oh, I know tomorrow I'm going to be in the coolest spot. I'm going to post a picture there, but I'm not going to put it in a calendar. For the brand, it's really forced me to be like, what are we posting? Why are we posting it? Do we need to communicate a message? It's completely different to sell a product than to sell my personality. So I like using the calendar a lot. Maybe I'll try to do it for my own self.
It sounds like, I'm like, this is the shift. It sounds like this is the moment where your business is really, and congrats. I don't want to talk too much about business because I just love watching it. I'm so funny. I'm like, if I know you from TV too much, I'm like, it ruins the magic. I just want to.
Totally.
But it sounds like you're at another crossroads yet again where where you've sort of always juggled your growth, and it's super inspiring to.
Thanks. It's a lot of pots on the stove, and then it's just always they're always bubbling. That's the good thing. I got a lot of pots, but they're always bubbling.
Yeah. Well, if I was all right, so how would I describe you if I was your iCal? How would your iCal describe you?
My iCal would say that I'm busy, that I'm curious, that I'm a bit unorganized from a calendar point of view. And I think they would say, the Cal would say I'm funny because I'll put in like the most random, like if anyone came across my calendar, I think they would be like, what the hell is he talking about? Like I'll write in like today, just Vinnie with like 10 emojis. Like
Yes.
What?
You should see my note, my ad in my, because I'm also so I ported I used to have a Rolodex when I started work, and then I ported that over. Actually, Christine Cowan, props to Christine.
Oh my God, I love Christine.
Helped me port it over to digitally. And then I keep notes in the description, and I have notes from shows in years and years. And sometimes and it's like, I love her, trust her. And she's not the Kelly that you think she is, or she's the Jessica you love. And she's,
That's amazing.
It means, but no one would understand what it is. And then I have my own casting director language when it comes to notes, because I felt like people always tried to figure out what I was writing. So I have like a dot system.
Oh my God. It's like very World War II code.
When did you know that, well, you probably only knew you were going to be doing, because when you're doing it, because you do make very active decisions, but what was the moment in the last maybe 20 years that you can look back to and say, like, that's the moment that inspired me to be, doing what I'm doing today, to have the freedom to have the business and brand and lifestyle and personality that you want to be today? A series of moments.
It's funny. I was like Mr. Madison Avenue in the corporate fashion world. I always kind of, thought in the back of my head of my friends that I would hire as freelancers. I was like, God, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they run their own thing. I could never not have a paycheck. So I never imagined me wearing multiple hats on my own. I wore multiple hats in brands that I worked for. And one day, and I've always done TV throughout. That's how we met originally. I've always done TV like on the side. And it's been the icing on the cake always. It's never been the flour in the cake. It's been the icing on the cake. So I'm I was up for a spot as a judge on a big fashion competition show. And this is right after my TLC show. And my CMO at American Eagle, when I was creative director there, he let me do the TLC show. He's like, this is great for us as a brand. You do you. You can say you work for American Eagle. It's all great press. I then approached him and said, hey, I think I might get this judging spot on this fashion competition show that everybody knows. It's a spin-off version of the big one. And he's like, no one's going to watch. Like, we can't have you doing that. That network is weird for us as a brand. Like, our customer is not there. We don't want you on TV. And I'm like, you're really going to stop me from doing something that would only help your brand and that would really help fulfill my dreams. And I kind of sat there, and after that I had to go do my end of year review at my desk, like satisfactory, unsatisfactory. And I looked at I looked at myself. I'm like, fuck that. Like, why am I working for the man? I am the man. Like, I'm not doing. So I look at literally pull up my bank account. How much do I have in savings? Not enough. How much do I have in my checking? Really not enough, because I just took an Uber to work. So I found some random old stocks that I had invested in from American Eagle. I cashed them out and I quit my job. And I remember it was that day that I was just like, these people are making decisions for me. Like, that's insane about my future. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's 2015, I think.
Yeah, 2015.
And Instagram is what, I think 3 years, maybe 2-3 years old, maybe at that point.
Yeah, it was still like that heavily filtered, high contrasted.
And did you just jump into making content?
Well, I think you touched on this in the episode earlier, but as part of my role at American Eagle, I was the consumer-facing spokesperson of the brand. So if I would do a style video, it would be on the monitors of 3,000 American Eagle stores. So if I would go into a mall in Kentucky, people would be like, "Oh my God, we watch you!" Yeah. So throughout,
well, hold on. If I would go into an American Eagle as a 35-year-old at that point, I would be like, "Oh no, Preston knows I'm in here."
He's what Big Brother's watching
in this room.
He's watching. I'm wearing American Eagle jeans.
Logo.
I'm wearing American Eagle jeans right now. They're the only ones that fit my big legs. But I throughout that process, to make a long story short, I had amassed a good amount of followers because a lot of the customers and employees and fans of the brand knew who I was. And so I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to
closed circuit network, by the way, like not nationally broadcast. So ironic though, isn't that's so cool. But also ahead of time and technology and media, but like super cool to point out that like the context was American Eagle. There was already culture established with that. And then there you were, it'd never been done before.
Yeah, it was really interesting. We made this kind of AETV thing. And I was like, well, Do you want me to talk? Because I do like to talk.
I have an idea.
Hey, do you want me to talk on camera about fashion? I can do that. And
we should hire a guy named Preston who
totally. And so
I by the way, I had the same pitch at MTV. That's how you got hired.
Oh my God. But that's what happened. And so I had a good little built-in network. So when I left, I was like, okay, let's hope these guys come on my journey with me. They're here now. Cool. And a lot of them are still following me today.
That's so cool. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking time to chat with us.
Oh my God. I'm so honored and I'm so proud of you. I mean, you need another endeavor like you need a hole in your head, but you do them all with such like grace. And the thing I like about you is that where sometimes I know I'll start things and then I can't follow through with them. And you never do that. And you always do it like, the way we're recording this, just pro all the way through. And that's why you're major.
Oh, you're the best. I think being impressive even starts with how we record the podcast and how it's distributed and what we do afterwards. So for people who are listening, is it cool if they DM you?
Oh my God, of course.
Reach out to you, Instagram. What's the best?
DM me on Instagram. I try my damn hardest to get back to everybody, but some nights when I'm just trying to watch Drag Race, I gotta just not do it.
Yeah.
But
so don't start in the DMs. Maybe hit a couple of feed posts, a couple of heart emojis. Warm it up.
It's a good buffer. Good buffer. Leave me some comment. I always get back to comments. I'm a comment queen. So
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm pointing out is like, ironically, people think DMs are the place to connect with people.
No.
It's like now that there's two filters in a general and a primary, there's no such thing as that on feed posts. So
yeah. Comment on the feed.
That's where you're looking. That's totally. By the way, hint to anyone trying to get like the attention of a TV development executive or an agent or a manager. Don't try to slide into their DMs. You don't have to. Just like, to be honest, a couple of praise hands and like, I love your work, and then know their work, that will stand out. People are looking for connection.
That's and you know what people are also looking for? Genuine engagement on their content. So the more you engage and then they engage back and you start that comment thread, it helps everybody and it's going to help you in the long run.
And a little bit of recognition too. A lot of content was made before social, kind of happened. So there's a lot of people kind of bringing their catalogs and their projects to the digital landscape. And I've sort of loved watching, especially because 20 years ago in my life, it was like 20 years ago, J-Lo. And then last week was 20 years ago, O-Town launched.
Isn't that crazy? You're having a full circle moment.
By the way, 20 years from the Super Bowl, so we're recording, I think, the beginning of February, 20 years from the Super Bowl was Nipplegate on MTV.
Oh,
so this was a very scarring weekend for many of my MTV colleagues. So totally. I wish them all luck. I have no clue about the game. I love that they're teasing commercials already, so I'm looking forward to that. But this is airing way after that. So why don't you guys, if you watch commercials, and this is ironically before its time conversation, maybe you should tell Preston your favorite Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah.
So go to his feed, Preston Konrad and Preston Konrad Home. Also, I didn't mention it, but the name of the podcast is Morning People with Preston Konrad.
Preston Konrad, yeah.
And if this was like, Andy Cohen, there'd be like a little bell with like Morning People, ding, ding, ding. It would be
always giving me ideas, chimes, things, this, that, new platforms. And then I can't wait to
the bells are in my head. They're in the head.
I can't wait to see you on Clubhouse. I'll see you in the hallways.
I'll see you.
You have to let me. You have to let me up in one of your stages.
Are you kidding? Come on up. I'll be like, one of those concerts where all my friends come on stage. I would be that guy.
I want
to be the Taylor Swift of Clubhouse.
Yes, I'm here for that. And I'll add you to all my calendars so I can make sure I tune into all your shows.
I love it. I love you. And thank you for your time today.
You are the best. Congrats on everything.
Thanks for listening to I Have a Podcast. For more information about today's episode, visit us at ihaveapodcast.com. If you like what you've heard, follow us or subscribe to be notified of our next episode. And we appreciate any kind reviews.